Hello, so creative, is Faustina here. Welcome to another interesting tutorial. On today's tutorial, we are going to be replicating this corset blouse that you are seeing on the screen. So I've gone ahead to bought all the things that I needed for the blouse. These are my drafting material. I'm going to keep it aside, and this is the material we are working with: original mesh, our hairstay, our zip, our already made bra cup, and beads. Like, the mode of contentment of this project is bead. I'm replicating it on green and gold. I bought crystal beads, sand bead, and crystal bead two sizes. I bought smaller size and medium size. White sand bead, I bought the smallest size. For the crepe, I bought crepe, and I also bought skin tone crepe, which I want to use for that middle illusion. If you watch close, you see that it has a middle illusion. So let's get straight into the drafting part. I'm coming down from the tip of our paper by 1 inch into several places to get a straight line, which will serve as our starting line. When I rule out the starting line, we will now start drafting our armhole. From the starting line, I'm going to impute my shoulder divided by 2 plus our basic neck width of 3 inches. From that shoulder divided by 2, I came down by 1 inch to get my shoulder slope. I'm going to taper it back to our neck width, and we are going to now proceed to mark out our chest line, which is also known as our armhole depth. Like how you always get your armhole depth, your bust divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches, and that will give you your armhole depth. So from your shoulder slope, you are going to now impute your armhole depth, not from your starting line. So after imputing my armhole depth from my shoulder slope, I now measure what I had from my armhole depth into several places to get a straight line. On that chest line, I went ahead to impute my shoulder divided by 2 in order to get our armhole line like so. On that chest line, what we are going to do, we are going to come up by 3 inches, and we are going to go in by 1/2 inch, and we are going to taper it straight to our shoulder tip, and we are going to go ahead and impute our bust divided by 4 measurements and complete our armhole curve like so. After getting your perfect armhole curve, we are going to proceed in marking out all our vertical line, which are the lines that are running from your shoulder to your bust point, from your shoulder to your under bust, from your shoulder to your front waist line. And that is it. I've gone ahead to impute my shoulder to my bust point, and I'm going to go ahead and label it bust point. From my shoulder as well, I'm going to impute my front waistline. Remember, your front waistline and your back waistline is not always the same. Your front is longer than your back because of the presence of the bust. And I'm going to also go ahead and label it front waistline, and I'm going to also come down from my shoulder to my under bust into several places in order to get a straight line. So after marking the dot, the next thing you should do is to bring out your ruler or pattern curve and join the dots together. From the shoulder, I'm also going to come down by my blouse length into several places, and after which I'm going to join the lines together to get my blouse length. I'm going to also label it. So after getting all the vertical lines, what we are going to now mark is our horizontal line, which is your body circumference. So on the bust point, I went ahead to impute my bust divided by 4, and I imputed it on the bust point and also on the chest line. On the front waistline, I went ahead to impute my waist divided by 4 plus 1 inch, that intake. While on the blouse length, what you are going to impute on your blouse length is your upper hip circumference. But because I don't have my upper hip circumference, I went ahead to impute my hip line. I want to use that my hip line to get my upper hip circumference. So what I'm going to do is basically add my hip divided by 4, and I'm going to go ahead and join it to my waist. So when you join it like this, you will automatically have your blouse length circumference, which is your upper hip circumference, because this blouse length is close to the hip line. From my waist to that my blouse length is 7, while from my waist to my hip line is 9. And this is the method you use to maneuver your upper hip circumference, should in case you did not measure your client's upper hip circumference. So I'm going ahead to add my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2 in on the bust point, under bust, front waistline, and your blouse length, and I'm going to join the 4 dots together to get a straight line. And I'm going to open up our dart leg by 1/2 inch on both sides of the line, and the dart leg is going to run from my waist to my blouse length by 1 inch. That is to say, I'm going to replace the 1 inch dart that I added on this blouse length now by the side, and I'm going to complete the dart intake by placing my pattern curve slanted to the bust point to meet our waist dart, and that is how you get your dart. And I'm going to replace it by the side. The 1 inch dart that we added on the blouse length, I'm going to replace it by the side. I'm joining it with my pattern curve. So after joining it, this is how it's gonna look, and I'm going to, from my blouse length by the side, go up by 1.5 inch in order to eliminate pointy area from my blouse, and I'm going to curve it into our blouse length line like so. This will eliminate any pointy parts on your blouse, and it's necessary. What we are going to be adding now is the difference between the front waistline and the back waistline. We are going to add it by the side as a side dart, and after adding your side dart, this is how it's gonna be. And after marking it, we now proceed in drafting out our corset blouse. This is the basic block that we just drafted. So from this basic block, we are going to now draft it out as a corset. What the first thing we are going to do is to tighten our underbust. From the dart leg, I mark out half inch on both sides, and I place my pattern curve slanted like so to give it a little bit of cut. The curve should not be curvy and it should not be straight, and I'm going to rule out the line to meet our initial dart line like so, to meet our first dart line, and that is it for the tightening of your underbust. So what we are going to do now is to divide the shoulder into two to get the midpoint, and the midpoint we are going to rule it over to our bust point. And from the shoulder, we are going to now determine how we want our over bust corset should be. From that shoulder, I came down by 6.5 inches. You can come down by 6.5, 7.5, depending on how you want your cleavage to show. And that is it for the cleavage opening. And from the center, I'm going to come in by 1/2 inch. Remember the illusion that I talked about. There is an illusion net that is running from the center all down the blouse length. That is what I'm marking at, is 1/2 inch. When you open it up, it's going to be 1 inch. So I'm adding 1/2 inch on the chest, bust point, under bust, front waistline, all down to our blouse length. We are going to cut out this 1/2 inch, and we are going to replace it with our illusion net and our skin tone crepe, like I said. So this is the reason why I bought this skin tone crepe and the mesh. So we are going to use this to replace this thing that we just rule out here. And what we are going to do next is to curve out our corset cup. From our bust point, we are going to place our pattern curve like so, and we are going to curve our corset cup like so. Watch my hand very well so that you will see how I'm placing my pattern curve. So you place yours like so. And on the over bust, I'm going to place my pattern curve like so. From that 1/2 inch line that we mark, I'm going to trace it all over to the 6.5 inch that we came down. While from the armpit area, which is the armhole area, we are going to come in by 1.5 from the chest line, and we are going to come in by 1.5, and that 1.5 we are going to now complete our over bust curving of our corset like so. You see how I will curve it, yeah. And that is it for the over bust. The next thing we are going to do now is to add our over bust tightening of that by 1/2 inch, and we are going to use our ruler to rule it all over to our bust point like so. By the two side, we are going to rule it out, and that is it for tightening of your over bust. And that we are going to exceed it to our shoulder in order to remove any excesses that will occur on our skin tone net. Because if you don't do this, you will notice that after sewing your skin tone net, you will have a little bit of excess because of your over bust dart. So to avoid such, it's best to extend your over bust dart all over to your shoulder like I just did. So we are going to come down by 4 inches for our neck depth, and also go in by 1 inch to get our neck width. So that is to say our neck width is 4 and our neck depth is 4. That is 4 by 4. And we have gone ahead to cut it at this cutting to give us room to close our side dart. So I went ahead to slash through the center dart, and we are going to go ahead and close our side dart because we won't be needing it. So after, when you close it, you use your masking tape and keep it in place. So when I close it now, we are going to now go ahead and complete the remaining side corset cup. When you close that side bust dart, you will notice that there is a little bit of excess at that side that you will need to complete. So how you do is just use your pattern curve and complete it, and nothing more. It will not harm your pattern. And after completing it, you are going to now go ahead and cut out the drafted pattern we had. And that is the reason why I added that excess while cutting. And after cutting it, from that our armpit area, I'm going to come in by 1.5 inch like we have already done. And from that 1.5 inch, I'm going to now complete my corset cup, placing my pattern curve like so. That corset cup is going to meet our under bust dart tightening we did. And that is it for the corset. I went ahead to blend the overbust and go ahead and cut through the darts we just marked out. So watch me closely and see how I cut out all the pattern. So after cutting through the shoulder dart, I went ahead to contour the overbust dart and see if they are matching or if there is any place I will need to do adjustments. But when I closed the two darts, it was looking like they were matching at the overbust, and that is it. And I went ahead to cut through the darts, and after cutting through the darts, I went ahead to now cut out our corset cup. Going to now go ahead and cut the overbust and the underbust of our corset cup, and also cut out our yoke, our front yoke. And that is it for the drafting of the corset. I'm going to go ahead and close back our yoke by using my masking tape. So I'm basically going to put them together and use my masking tape to keep them in place. And that is it for the drafting of our beautiful corset blouse. So when I keep it in place, I'm going to now keep all this our pattern in place so that we start drafting the back. So after putting our masking tape to keep our front yoke in place, we are going to go ahead and cut through the line that we just drew. This half-inch line that we just drew, we are going to go ahead and cut. After cutting it, our front pattern is basically ready. We are going to keep it in place and start drafting the back. I've gone ahead to lay our drafting paper in place, and I'm going to go ahead and mark out our shoulder divided by 2 and our neck, basic neck width of 3 inches, and we are going to slope our shoulder by 1 inch like we did to the front. From that 1 inch, we are going to mark out our chest line into several places in order to get a straight line. And after marking it, we are going to join the 3 dots like so. And on that chest line, we are also going to impute our shoulder divided by 2 measurements in order to get our armhole line. So for the back, we are going to find the midpoint of the armhole line, and we are going to go in by 1/2 inch, and we are going to taper it all over to our shoulder tip, and we are going to basically impute our bust divided by 4 and complete our armhole curve like so. And after completing our armhole curve, what we are going to do next is to mark out our shoulder to our back waistline into several places. Our back waistline is 17, while our front waistline is 19. So I've gone ahead to rule it out, and we are going to go ahead and mark out our back blouse length. Your back blouse length and your front blouse length is not the same because of the difference between your front waistline and your back waistline. So our front waistline is 19, while our back waistline is 17. The difference between 19 to 17 is 2 inches. So what we are going to do is to minus that 2 inches from our front blouse length. Our front blouse length is 26. When you minus the difference between your front waistline and your back waistline, which is 2, you are going to get 24. So basically our back blouse length is 24, and we are going to mark 24 into several places. It's not going to affect anything. It's not going to affect anything. Rather, it's going to give it a nice shape and also relax very well. So this 24, we mark it into several places, going to serve as our back blouse length. And what we are going to do next is what we call waist contouring, for which eliminates zipper budges. So what I'm going to do, from the center back, we are going to come in by 1 inch from the waist, and we are going to taper it all over to neck tip and also to our blouse length. And that is it for the contouring or elimination of zipper budge for the center back. Your center back should not be straight because your center back is curvy. So from our new center back, I'm going to impute my waist divide by 4 plus 1 inch dart intake. And from this our new center back, I'm also going to recheck my bust divide by 4 and also mark it. And on the blouse length, I'm going to go ahead and put the circumference of my blouse length an extra 1 inch dart intake, because we are also going to bring down the dart on our blouse length. So after getting our blouse length from our initial center back, which is the first center back we had, we are going to impute our nipple to nipple measurements in order to get a straight line. Remember, our new center back is curvy, so we need a straight center back in order to get a straight line for our dart intake. I'm going to open up the side dart by half inches on both sides, and I'm going to also do the same thing on the blouse length because we added the allowance by the side. And that is it for the dart. And I'm also going to go ahead and taper it all over to our chest line in order to complete our dart leg. But before then, we are also going to go ahead and mark out our 6.5 inches like we did to the front, and go ahead to complete our dart leg. You can see how I'm placing my pattern curve, so this is how you place yours. And that is it for the dart. You can see what I did there. Yeah, that is how you go about your back dart intake. And for the neck width, we are also going to come in by 1 inch, which is making our neck width 4 inches and our neck depth 1 inches for the back. And we are going to go ahead and rule it out like so. So when you rule it out, you are going to give it this stylish effect. And that stylish effect, you are going to put it exactly after your dart, but you are going to determine how wide you want that part to be open. So I came down by 1 inch and I curve it with my free hand, and from that at 6.5 inches, I came down by 1.5 inches on the center back, and I ruled it out like so, so that my center back will be slanty. I want it to be slanty. I don't want it to be just straight. So on the blouse length, I'm going to come up by 1.5 inches by the side and taper it all over to our blouse length like we did to the front in order to eliminate any pointy part. And we are going to go ahead and now cut through all our drafted pattern. So watch me closely and see how I cut it through. So the drafting of the back is so simple, and that is it for the back. We are going to go ahead and recheck the front side and the back side. You can see that they are matching, despite the fact that the front blouse length and the back blouse length is different, but they are matching by the side. So I'm going ahead to transfer all our patterns to fabric, and I added sewing allowance of 1.5 inches, and the rest of the other parts I added half inches. On the corset area, I added half inch. On the center, I added half inch. On the upper side, I added half inch. On the center tool that we are going to use for our illusion net, I cut it on fold. It was cut on fold for the center, and I cut both the skin tool net and the mesh, and I also added half inches. And I also went ahead to cut out our hairstay, which we are going to use to hem all around our pattern. And that is it for the front. And for the back and also the cup, I also went ahead to cut out every other part half inches. I added half inch on every other part except the sewing part, which is the sewing allowance, which I added 1.5 inches for the sewing allowance for the side. While the zipper side, I also added 1 inch for the zipper side, and the upper side and the down part half inches except from the zipper allowance, which I added 1 inch. And for the cup, I added half-inch allowance, sewing allowance all through both the upper side, the cup area and the down part. And also went ahead to cut out the lining for every part of it. So the lining is shorter than the main fabric by half an inch. And for our yoke, I also went ahead to cut through our yoke. I added half-inch all around our patterns, both the armhole area, the shoulder, the sewing part that we needed to sew. And that is it for the drafting and transferring of all our patterns to fabric. You can now go ahead and watch out for the sewing part. You don't want to miss the sewing part. The sewing part is where all the juiciness lies. So after the sewing part, we now proceed in beading all these our patterns. So you are basically going to bead all these patterns that you just saw now from beginning to scratch. So keep watching, and also don't forget to come back for the part 2. I love you if you have watched to this point. If you're a returning subscriber, you are welcome. If you're a new subscriber, I really appreciate your likes, your comments, and see you in the sewing part. Bye bye, my lovers.